So most people ignored the tiny $30 million market cap company called MetaPlanet when they announced that they had bought $6 million worth of Bitcoin last month. But this week, they've came out again. They've made another announcement that I believe everybody should be paying attention to because they've not only put about 20% of their entire market cap into Bitcoin, but they're going to employ an total Bitcoin strategy. So let's have a look at what MetaPlanet is doing, and let's have a look at how many other companies can do what MetaPlanet is currently doing. So right now, they have employed the services of Dylan Leclerc, the man on the thumbnail of today's video. We can see he tweeted out this week, and he said, "I am thrilled to be joining MetaPlanet, a publicly traded company, and his job role is the director of Bitcoin strategy." Now, this is the important part. He says MetaPlanet is embracing a corporate Bitcoin standard and will strategically leverage public capital markets to acquire additional Bitcoin for shareholders over time. So what's he saying? He's saying the quiet parts out loud. MetaPlanet is going to take on debt to buy more Bitcoin. And this is going to essentially copy what Michael Saylor has done. This is another Michael Saylor copycat. And I think this is massive. Okay, yes, MetaPlanet is a tiny company. They've only got a $30 to $35 million market cap, but they can take on a lot of debt in the debt markets. We know that all of Michael Saylor's bonds that he was selling this year and last year, they were all oversubscribed. And this is because people wanted access to a Bitcoin proxy in the debt markets, okay? Now, this is the second company to employ this strategy, but I think it's very interesting for a number of reasons. The second being the fact that they are Bitcoin first and Bitcoin only. So they actually open source their entire playbook. This is their white paper on their Bitcoin corporate strategy. And they said, look, we are Bitcoin first, Bitcoin only. Okay, this is massive. And they have already received the feedback effect of implementing a Bitcoin treasury. So we can see here, their stock price is up by more than 50% since they initially announced their Bitcoin strategy. And this tweet here says public company leaders are taking notice as the economy slows and national debt weighs heavy. This is an easy growth strategy for these firms. Okay, now we're going to crunch the numbers and show you just how many of the 58,000 public companies can do what Michael Saylor has done and can also do what MetaPlanet has done, because they're two companies taking very different size stakes in Bitcoin. So we're going to actually run the numbers on both of those situations for you guys. But I first want to show you what's happened to the stock price of MetaPlanet. So as we can see, stock price has been trending down for a long amount of time. It's been trending down for the past 5 years. But let's zoom into the past couple of months, because all of a sudden we can see MetaPlanet's stock price is rising. It has risen precipitously on the Bitcoin announcement. It is actually up. It's up by more than 100%. So it's more than doubled in the past 2 months alone. Okay, which again, this is massive. This is more validation of the Bitcoin strategy. When they came out and made another announcement this week of them buying more Bitcoin and the fact that they're going to leverage the public debt markets, you can see their stock price increased again. So this is massive. This is big, big, big validation. Right now, let's put some numbers on it. So the Japanese firm holds about 117 Bitcoin. Okay, that's a lot of Bitcoin. Before we run the numbers, I want to show you why they're actually accumulating the Bitcoin, because it's always good to know what is actually going through these companies' heads. Okay, do they understand Bitcoin? Are they, just speculating? Because some people have said, look, this company has a lot of buzzwords on their website, like Web3 and, crypto and all of these things that make us a little bit more dubious about their intentions. But this company gets it. Okay, again, on their Bitcoin strategy disclosure, they're Bitcoin first, Bitcoin only. And in their filings, they've actually, the reason they're making this Bitcoin strategy is because they want to diversify away from the Japanese yen. Okay, so we can see here, the CEO of MetaPlanet, Simon Jerovich, he took to Twitter and he said, look, this is just the beginning. Okay, he says this is just the beginning. The Japanese yen is expected to be the poorest performer among major currencies versus the US dollar in 2024, falling to historic lows in April, not seen since the 1990s. Okay, so again, this is huge. Now let's run the numbers on how many companies could actually replicate what MetaPlanet has done. Okay, so we can see here, I tweeted this out this morning. I wanted to run some numbers. So we know that there's, 1.9 million Bitcoin on exchanges. And I wanted to be super conservative. Okay, we know that there's 58,000 public companies in the world. It's a lot of public companies. Okay, and most of them are pretty big public companies. Okay, like we know we got Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Nvidia. They're all multi-trillion dollar companies. Okay, they're big companies. They're more than 100 times bigger than MetaPlanet, to put things into perspective. They're huge. Okay, but I wanted to be conservative. I said, okay, how many of these public companies could actually take a Bitcoin stake the same size as MetaPlanet? So MetaPlanet owns, as we can see, about 117 Bitcoin in their treasury right now. Okay, and I ran the numbers. I said, okay, there's 1.9 million Bitcoin on exchanges. We can see that from this chart here. Again, the data varies upon which exchange you're looking at. This Glassnode one pegs it at about 2.1 million, 2.2 million Bitcoin on exchanges. The other data providers and on-chain providers I look at say it's actually like 1.8, 1.9. I always like to just be conservative and take an average of the two different metrics. I say about 2 million Bitcoin on exchanges today. Doesn't matter what data provider you're looking at, the trend is the same. And we've seen 30% of all the Bitcoin evaporate off exchanges since 2020. So let's, run the numbers. Okay, let's have a look at what's actually going on. I said, all right, let's say there's about 1.9 million Bitcoin on exchanges. How many of those 58,000 public companies can buy 117 Bitcoin? And when you run the numbers, you can see only 16,000 of those 58,000 public companies can buy 117 Bitcoin and put it on their balance sheet. Okay, we're actually ignoring the fact that MetaPlanet has publicly announced that they're going to be leveraging the debt markets to buy more Bitcoin than that 117 on their balance sheet today. Let's ignore that and let's just think about it today, okay? Only 16,000 public companies, okay? So I believe I ran the numbers on here, and this is 27% of all of the publicly traded companies can buy 117 Bitcoin, okay? Now again, think about how small a position of 117 Bitcoin is going to be for someone like Apple or Google or a lot of these absolute giant companies, okay? This is a $7 million Bitcoin position, and we know that Apple has over $100 billion worth of money on its balance sheet, okay? So again, it's an enormous amount of, melting fiat on their balance sheet. Taking a $7 million hedge of Bitcoin in Apple's situation is not big enough. It's simply not big enough. They're going to have to buy a whole lot more Bitcoin. But again, that's the numbers, okay? Only 16,000 public companies can buy the same amount of Bitcoin as MetaPlanet has, okay? But what about MicroStrategy? What about the massive, Bitcoin holder that MicroStrategy holds? How many companies can do what MicroStrategy has done? Well, guys, I'm glad you asked. Let's have a look. So this here is the MicroStrategy tracker. Okay, this is a cool little website that keeps an eye on everything related to MicroStrategy. Now, the website that I want to show you guys is the one that shows the buys and how big their treasury is. So we can see MicroStrategy. It looks as if they've got about $13 billion worth of Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Okay, now again, this is in profit by $5.6 billion, up by 73%. Massive, okay, really big. And they have over 1% of the total Bitcoin supply, I believe. Let's put a number on that. 214,000 Bitcoin is how much Bitcoin MicroStrategy has. So how many public companies can buy 214,000 Bitcoin like MicroStrategy? Well, we know there's around, 2 million Bitcoin exchanges. That means there's only enough Bitcoin exchanges for another 9 public companies to buy the same amount of Bitcoin as Michael Saylor. And I think that the faster these Bitcoin leave exchanges, I think we're going to see a competitive race. Okay. Now, the analogy that I used to describe this competitive race today on Twitter was actually, it was a strange analogy. It was a bathroom related analogy, actually. It was comparing the Bitcoin on exchanges to water in a bathtub. Okay. Sounds crazy. I know. But let me explain myself and justify what I'm talking about. So I said, if you listen closely enough, you can hear a distinct sucking sound as the bathtub empties of water. The closer the tub gets to emptying, the louder that noise will become. Most of you guys have probably had a rubber tub in your life, and you've had a bath, and you know that when you're draining that bathtub, the less water that's in the bathtub, the louder it gets, okay? Now, I think the same analogy can be applied to Bitcoin on exchanges. Right now, it's only a few of us psychopaths online who are like pointing and screaming, saying, look at the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges. There's only 2 million Bitcoin on exchanges for sale. What's happened in the past 4 years? Why have Bitcoin on exchanges only left exchanges over the past 4 years? This is strange. This is a trend. Nobody's paying attention to this trend. And I think the closer we get to those coins on exchanges evaporating, I think the louder the noise is going to become. And I think billionaires are going to get nervous and they're going to start worrying about what is actually happening. Okay, so I want to read some comments and take a quick drink. I've lost my voice. I'm as crook as a dog, as we say in Australia. Let's read Dan's comment. How many companies can theoretically afford to have the same number of Bitcoin as Saylor at current prices? I think that's a great question, Dan, because not a lot of public companies are as profitable as Michael Saylor. Okay, we know that there's a lot of cash on balance sheets. I'm going to bring you up a chart of that because I know my friend Oliver has a great chart looking at cash on the balance sheet of public companies. And you guys know I'm a sucker for charts. I really do like to have a look at charts. So great question, Dan. All right, well, I can't find the chart, but there's a lot of companies with a lot of cash on the balance sheet. So yes, a lot of, companies might not be as profitable as MicroStrategy is, but there's a lot of companies out there with cash on the balance sheet, and that's massive, and that's big. All Night Hider's just joined. Hit the like button for Pam and Luke. Thank you, All Night Hider. Appreciate that. Bill's in the chat as well. Kev says, let's hope they don't swap their sats for a Bored Ape. Are they stacking ETFs or the real thing? I haven't found... I'm going to research that for you, Kev, for a future live stream in the week, because I honestly couldn't find any data about whether they're self-custodying their Bitcoin or whether they're just buying Bitcoin ETFs. Okay, I did see earlier today that the 9th largest pension fund in America is buying Bitcoin ETFs, and a lot of it, $120 million worth. I'm going to be talking about that in a live stream later on today on the personal channel. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole just yet. We're going to make a complete separate video on that topic because I think it's an interesting one. But I'm going to have to find that out for you, Kev. Now, with all that said, guys, I think that is nearly all I've got time for you guys. If you enjoyed this deep dive and you prefer reading, you can check out our weekly newsletter. We put out this puppy on a weekly basis, and they're a lot more organized and free-flowing than the live streams that I make for you guys that are a little bit all over the place, so to say. So if you want a more coherent breakdown of what is happening with the news, check out our newsletter. It's free. We do it weekly, and we talk about topics like this very, very, very routinely. So with all that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to leave this live stream here. I'm going to talk to you guys later on in the week. Enjoy the rest of your day and keep stacking.